Welcome to Democracy Roundtable, your weekly deep dive into the state of U.S. politics, civil rights, and the enduring strength of our democratic institutions. I'm Chris, and with me today is my co-host, Amara. We have a packed show, exploring everything from the shakeup at the Justice Department to critical election integrity challenges and the international implications of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East.
Thanks, Chris. It's Friday, April 3rd, 2026. And the headlines certainly reflect a moment of significant tension and consequence across the board. From domestic policy decisions that could reshape our electoral landscape to a concerning overlap between presidential power and private business interests, there's a lot to unpack. I'm looking forward to getting into it with our brilliant correspondents as well.
Absolutely, Amara. Let's kick things off with the development that sent ripples through Washington this week. President Trump's removal of Attorney General Pam Bondi. Reports indicate this was due to his frustration with her office's perceived lack of aggression in prosecuting his political opponents. Todd Blanche is now serving as acting AG, with Lee Zeldin being floated for the permanent role. This move, following concerns about her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, raises serious questions about the independence of the Justice Department. Sarah, let's bring you in here. What's your take on this latest development and what it signals for the rule of law?
Chris, Amara, it's a deeply troubling situation. The Attorney General is meant to be the nation's chief law enforcement officer, operating free from political interference. When a president removes an AG, particularly with stated frustration over a lack of prosecutions against political opponents, it creates a chilling effect and fundamentally undermines the principle of equal justice under the law. We've seen a pattern here, and it suggests a growing politicization of the Justice Department, where loyalty to the president might be prioritized over the impartial application of justice. And let's not forget the allegations surrounding her handling of the Epstein files, which only compound the concerns about transparency and accountability.
That's a great point, Sarah. It feels like a direct assault on the separation of powers. And it's not just the AG. We also saw this week that a coalition of media organizations and press freedom advocates, led by the Intercept's Press Freedom Defense Fund, filed an amicus brief challenging President Trump's executive order that seeks to sanction law firms representing his political opponents. This seems to be another angle of attack on independent legal processes.
Exactly, Amara. The executive order targeting law firms is truly unprecedented and deeply authoritarian. It aims to chill legal representation for anyone perceived to be an opponent of the administration. The Media Coalition's brief rightly argues it's unconstitutional and a direct threat to both an independent press and the integrity of the legal profession itself. It's an attempt to weaponize the legal system against dissent. And we also have the case of Mahmoud Khalil, who is seeking Judge Bova's recusal in his deportation case, citing prior professional roles. This speaks to the broader concern about judicial impartiality and the appearance of fairness, which is crucial for public trust.
It certainly does. And on a related note, Sarah, there was a strange piece of news regarding Tiger Woods reportedly calling President Trump after his DUI arrest. While seemingly minor, it adds to the perception of a two-tiered justice system, where proximity to power might offer a different kind of access or leverage. It's these small signals that contribute to a broader erosion of trust and fair application of the law.
That's absolutely right, Chris. Even the perception of undue influence, or that certain individuals have a direct line to the president in a legal matter, damages the credibility of the justice system. It feeds into the idea that justice isn't blind.
Speaking of trust and the integrity of our systems, let's pivot to election issues. The White House this week defended the Save America Act, which aims to tighten voter ID and absentee voting. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt argued it's about preventing fraud, but critics are saying it risks disenfranchising millions. And separately, Democrats are suing to block President Trump's executive order restricting mail voting, calling it an unconstitutional attempt to rewrite election rules. Sarah, can you walk us through the legal landscape here?
These are indeed critical challenges to democratic participation. The Save America Act, while framed as an anti-fraud measure, often creates significant barriers for eligible voters, particularly minority voters, the elderly, and students who may struggle to meet new ID requirements or navigate complex absentee ballot rules. The Democratic lawsuits against the executive order on mail voting argue that the president is overstepping his authority. Election procedures are largely the purview of states and Congress, not the executive branch. These lawsuits contend that President Trump is attempting to unilaterally change election rules for partisan advantage, and it's a dangerous precedent. We also saw this week a Colorado appeals court order a resentencing for Tina Peters, the former elections clerk convicted of attempting to subvert the 2020 election. It's a reminder of the ongoing threats to election security from within, and how crucial it is to uphold these convictions.
That's a stark reminder of how interconnected these issues are. Now, let's shift gears to another area where the lines seem increasingly blurred: the intersection of presidential power and private business interests. We've learned that a drone manufacturer backed by Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump is actively seeking to sell drone interceptors to Gulf states. This comes amid rising tensions with Iran and President Trump's own role as commander-in-chief, authorizing strikes against Iran. Amara, this screams conflict of interest, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, Chris. It's not just a potential conflict, it's a glaring one. The optics alone are terrible. You have the president's sons directly profiting from heightened tensions in a region where their father, as president, is making critical foreign policy and military decisions. It puts Gulf states in an impossible position, feeling pressured to purchase these products to maintain favorable relations with the U.S. government. It's a clear exploitation of the office.
Maya, let's get your take on this. From an international relations perspective, how do these types of business dealings, directly tied to the president's family, impact U.S. diplomacy and our relationships in sensitive regions like the Middle East?
Thanks, Chris. This is incredibly problematic on the global stage. It immediately raises questions about the motivations behind U.S. foreign policy decisions. Are we acting in our national security interest, or are there underlying commercial interests at play, benefiting the president's family? This erodes trust among our allies and partners. For Gulf states, already navigating complex regional dynamics and relying on U.S. security guarantees, the pressure to buy these drones from Powerus, a company directly linked to the Trump family, becomes immense. It's not about the best product or the best deal. It's about securing political favor. And it certainly doesn't help when President Trump is also threatening 100% tariffs on drug makers that don't agree to lower U.S. drug prices, using economic leverage in a way that feels more like a strong-arm tactic than fair negotiation. It sends a message of transactional, rather than principled, engagement.
It's a worrying trend of blurring lines between public office and private gain. And speaking of humanitarian concerns, let's bring Elena in. We saw Representatives Mike Levin and Sarah Jacobs, two California Democrats, visit the Otay Mesa ICE detention center this week following a court ruling that allows unannounced congressional visits. This facility has faced allegations of overcrowding, poor conditions, and even sexual assault. Elena, what did their visit reveal, and what's the situation like on the ground?
Amara, Chris, the situation at Otay Mesa and many other detention centers remains deeply concerning. Representatives Levine and Jacobs went in specifically to assess the conditions after these serious allegations, including issues with medical care, food, and access to legal counsel. The fact that a court ruling was even necessary to allow unannounced congressional visits speaks volumes about the lack of transparency in these facilities. Under the current administration, we've seen a surge in the number of detained immigrants, leading to increased strain on these centers, and a corresponding rise in reports of abuse and neglect. The lawmakers' visit is a crucial step in shedding light on these conditions, but it's clear that systemic issues persist and require far more than just oversight visits. They demand fundamental policy changes.
Thank you, Elena, for that crucial insight. It's a reminder of the human cost of these policies. And now, shifting our gaze to the global stage, Maya, the Middle East conflict continues to dominate headlines. Global leaders are scrambling to ease oil price surges and reopen the Strait of Hormuz amid the ongoing war in Iran, which President Trump has predicted will be extended. We've also seen President Zelensky offer Ukraine's expertise in maintaining open sea lanes. And NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is visiting the White House amid President Trump's renewed criticism of the alliance. What's the latest on this complex international landscape?